Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene our meeting. Let's see, do we have any action?
Oh, I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve a one reading ordinance waiving the Unified Development Code, sections 3.2, 8.51C, and UDC 8.5.2E to allow L&M J&M Investments LLC to be eligible for arterial transmission and grid line construction reimbursement agreement after start of the construction of the water arterial transmission and grid line related to the London Ranch Estate subdivision, so long as the construction is not completed prior to the execution of such agreement. To allow MPM Development LP to be eligible for wastewater trunk system construction and reimbursement agreement after the start of the construction of the wastewater trunk line related to Haven Road subdivision, so long as such construction is not completed prior to the execution of such agreement. To allow Saratoga 400 Partners LLC to be eligible for the wastewater trunk system construction and reimbursement agreement after the start of construction of wastewater trunk line related to Saratoga Ridge subdivision, so long as such construction is not completed prior to execution of such agreement, and repealing ordinance 033246, approved December 12, 2023.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? To repeal.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. And that will take us to section M, individual consideration items 24 and 25. Item number 24 is an ordinance amending the Corpus Christi Code to amend Chapter 49 Streets and Sidewalks and Chapter 53 Traffic.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Ernie DeLarz, Director of Public Works. This presentation is the second reading to amend Chapter 49 and Chapter 53. These amendments are specifically related to right-of-way management and street cuts. Next slide. Thank you. To provide an overview, this item was presented to City Council on December 5th for initial consideration. At that moment in time, the item, we had a first reading with an amendment passed by Councilman Hernandez. And on January 9th, the item was replaced on the agenda for consideration and successfully passed. Today, I'm presenting this item for the second reading approval that includes the final recommendations to the proposed ordinance after we had some discussions with stakeholders. Next slide. Just real quick history. The Public Works Department was established in 2019 within the City of Corpus Christi. Public Works Director is designated by ELT to manage activities in the right-of-way. Fast forward to today, right-of-way team has been created. The updates to our ordinances begin to become a necessity to cite proper language and have a clear understanding of the regulations permitted for work. Currently, per the ordinance, Development Services is the department responsible for driveway permits and street cuts. Next slide. The goal here is to update the language on Chapter 4953 to align with our current department and processes in place. This will allow the Department of Public Works to have the opportunity to review and permit street cuts, driveways, sidewalks, curb and gutter construction, and transition any oversight to our right-of-way division. By doing so, our qualified staff can ensure we are protecting city right-of-way infrastructure that services the community. This includes tracking utility providers and contractors, reducing street infrastructure damage, increasing safety and convenience on transportation, and ensuring work is being held to city construction standards. Next slide. All right, here this slide demonstrates some street damage done by street cuts on new streets, and this not only includes utility and then other users of the right-of-way, but this is also our own departments, our own city departments as well. So we're doing this for protecting the assets all around. Next slide. In this picture, you can see the work is currently being done during development, and in some cases, we're going to work with stakeholders on developing the standards by which we're going to inspect through our inspection resources in the traffic section. Next slide. Our goal here is to provide oversight on right-of-way development that occurs on our sidewalks and educate our residents on to what is permissible by ordinance. Just make sure that they do follow the standards that the city has in place. Next slide. Here, the city standards address the correct manner into how to tie into driveway approaches versus a saw cut and long-term benefits it will have for our infrastructure, mainly just protecting the reinforced steel, keeping it from getting exposed, and then spalling out the concrete. Next slide. Here's another example of a curb-to-curb requirement on a new street cut versus a full patch. Just making it uniform, making sure that the structure is held intact and is waterproof. Next slide. The other way. Next slide. Thank you. After meeting with stakeholders and reviewing our first reading update, staff is making the following recommendations. Number one, the old streets would be defined as anything greater than 6 years with a pavement condition index of 80. The old street restoration requirements, the width is full lane, and then the length 10 feet beyond the edge of excavation. Number three, new streets would be defined as any street ranging from 0 to 6 years and a pavement condition index greater than or equal to 80. And then the last one is excavation of a new street will still require a variance. However, the restoration limits are redefined as the width could be up to curb and the length is 20 feet beyond the edge of the excavation. Next slide. And then this chart just demonstrates the high-level summary of what the existing ordinance currently displays for our driveway permits, inspections, including sidewalk, curb, and gutter. Our final recommendation is to require permits for all work in the right-of-way. The right-of-way permit will be part of the building permit, and then no additional fees will be needed, but the applicant will be required to meet the city requirements for the issuance of traffic control. Inspections will be performed by Public Works and random inspections of residential requests due to staffing limitations currently at Public Works. Next slide. To close, staff recommends approval of the final ordinance with amendments as presented in the current slide. I stand by for any questions.
And Mayor, can I just add that we want to personally thank Moses Masagaji, who kind of led the developer community in coming together with this consensus compromise solution today to bring forth the City Council. And as Ernesto said, there's in the new construction would be some oversight by Public Works, but no fees associated with it. And then on the street cut policy, it would protect our streets that are newer so that the taxpayer investment is safeguarded, so that better repairs are made should a homeowner or a business need to tie in to a utility and cut a brand new street. So just want to add those comments. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I move for approval.
Councilman Pessin.
Or if you could go back to slide number 6, please.
Yes.
Public.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to just mention here that I hope our new rules will keep in mind is the fact, if you look at the picture on the right, the new residential, and I think there's still enough room the way that looks for a wheelchair, but we need to make sure that whatever we do on curb cuts like this doesn't impact our ADA requirements and sensitivity toward people who are handicapped.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the next page, please, page 7. So this picture here on the left with the brick pavers for the sidewalk, does that mean you're not going to allow people to do that if they wanted to, or if they do, they're going to have to?
Yeah, they're going to have to meet the ADA requirement.
But they're also going to have to do it under city guidelines, I would
Correct.
assume.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open, I know we have a motion, but I'm going to open public comment first, public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on item number 24? Okay, there being no one, we'll close public hearing. Is there a second? We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
But we do need to amend it,
Point of
Mayor.
order, do we need amendments?
Yes,
Correct.
so we
Yes.
have a motion and a second. We will need an amendment if the council is agreeable to accept all of staff's recommendations as Mr. De La Garza outlined.
So,
Okay.
so I
We're gonna
make a motion
quick-
with the amendment?
Hang on, but we're going to make a quick comment first, and then we'll go back. Okay. Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
So the motion should be, we make a motion to accept the amendments
Right.
as identified by staff,
All
then,
staff's recommendations.
then go to the approval, the final approval as
Correct.
amended?
Or she can,
Yes.
right.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the amendments as presented by Mr. De La Garza.
Second.
We have a
Yeah.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The
So I'll
motion
make a motion
carries.
to accept
To approve as
the ordinance as amended.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
Can,
The motion carries. Can what?
can I abstain from this one?
Oh.
Because last time I voted against it because y'all said y'all were gonna change the way the ordinance
can
was written,
change it if
but
y'all
what
let
was
him.
presented to us or given us in the package was,
Turn on your microphone.
sorry, what was put in the package was not changed. And I told y'all I would not vote for this until it is.
Correct. It has been amended now. So-
What I referred to last time? Okay, then yes. Sounds
Yeah.
great, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, you're good.
All right, so we're good.
Thank you.
All right, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 25
read all the
is an ordinance amending the capital improvement program to add the Whitecap and Gypsy Bridges Scour Protection Project.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to open public hearing, public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on item number 25? Okay, there being no one, I will close public
These are,
comment.
I'm sorry, Mayor. These are additional bridges to the ones we approved last time?
I know it seems like deja vu.
We just did this, right? Yeah.
No, so you did it as the TERS 2 board.
Oh, this
So
is,
this is one of
okay.
those items that it requires both, and
Right.
neither party can act independently.
Okay. So we have, who made the motion? You made the motion. Who seconded? Do we have a second?
Councilmember Campos,
Oh, you did?
she seconded.
Okay.
And Mayor,
Okay.
can I just add,
You
just
did.
so for Councilman Pusley and others, so this, we're going to be potentially back again for the construction contract. So you'll see it one more time. This just sets up the budget and the appropriation. We may use a design firm on retainer, so we don't have, so we can save time. And then for the construction contract, we'll be back to City Council.
Are we doing this? I thought the Whitecap was doing some of these bridges. Or is it?
Scour.
We discussed that possibility, but either way, it's going to take an action by council to either have a developer agreement or.
No, because if
or
we do it, we
construction
have to go
contract.
through the qualification process for design, then we have to go to the construction, and we have to go, there's a whole,
Well, we're using, like the manager said, we're using MSA on the design.
Okay,
Master
well,
Service Agreement.
I'm saying it might save ourselves some money if they do it, but, okay.
You get it
However you guys
going.
want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. And our last item in section N, briefings, item number 26, is our proposed bond 2024 program briefing.
And Mayor, while Neiman comes up to the podium here, just because some of our local media kind of described this as a different event today, but Neiman, like the 2022 bond program, will be the lead executive, helping with the council, the departments, and the community to develop the bond program. Today is just an overarching presentation on things like calendar, guiding principles. There'll be many more events coming forward. So today is just an initial conversation. We're not looking for project recommendations. We don't have any to discuss. It's just an overarching framework for the bond program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon, council. As stated, I'm Neiman Young, Assistant City Manager. And today, as the council is aware, we're encroaching upon election year. As with previous election years, the city uses this season as a means to consider a referendum to be added to the ballot. And that ballot revolves around allowing Corpus Christi citizens and its voters to consider and approve bond projects. Understanding that there has been a change in leadership for both the staff and city council, we felt that it would be prudent to kick off the bond 2024 with a presentation providing council an overview and background on the bond development process. So as the city manager stated before, we will be focusing on having a discussion regarding the overview and the process, and we'll be having subsequent discussions regarding potential projects that will be added to the proposal. Next slide. On the ballot, the bond is usually captured in 4 categories. This year, the proposed categories are streets, public safety, parks, and libraries/community centers. As a best practice, smaller capital projects are addressed via our capital budget. However, for larger projects like facilities or reconstruction of arterial roadways, we depend on bonds to complete that work. Please note that our projects are primarily phased. That means that we usually, going forward, we put design in a bond, get the dollars to do the design and engineering for a particular project, then we look for the construction dollars in a subsequent bond. This is best evidence in the projects that we did with the Billwood Aquatic Center and Yorktown project. Also on the slide, I've demonstrated some additional examples of projects that have been completed via previous bonds, which includes the Aquatic Center, Everhart Road, the Police Training Academy. We have a fire station, number 3, that's currently being built out, and we're currently working on substations in Cal Allen and far south side of Corpus Christi. Next slide. Upon council approval, the staff will develop the final proposal for Bond 2024 utilizing guiding principles. And what the staff recommends are the guiding principles before you. The guiding principles serve as a paradigm or left or right limits to the bond development process. These principles, like project continuation, connectivity, and leveraging various funding, allows us to ensure that we're delivering the community high-quality capital projects in the most impactful and efficient manner. The biggest takeaway is the fact that we will prioritize signature projects that promote increased capacity, functionality, and economic development via our city's infrastructure. And most importantly, above all, we want to ensure that the plan allocates an equal investment across all 5 council districts in the city. Next slide.
And if I can, Neiman, if you can go back to that slide for council. So these are the guiding principles we'll use. So in this presentation, if the council thinks some of these aren't something we should use, you could tell us today or soon thereafter. But they're consistent with the last bond program. We added a few in this one to include look at landscaping design and certain road projects as part of that design package, if it makes sense, to have some design features in there for landscaping. But these are the guiding principles that will ultimately help to select projects in the bond program. Go ahead, Neiman. Thank you.
Next slide. As stated before, we'd like to ensure that there's equity and there's an equal investment across all 5 council districts. And what that's called is the principle of rough proportionality. And I'd like to take this opportunity just to discuss the principle of rough proportionality pretty quickly. According to rough proportionality, the entirety of the bond funding will be equitably distributed across all 5 council districts. Please note that rough proportionality applies to the entirety of the funding, not the entirety of the category. For example, if you look at the bottom spreadsheet, you'll see the row that says percentage, and you'll see that the percentage of bond 2022 was equally distributed across all 5 districts at around 12%. However, if you look at Council District 5, you'll see that streets at $6.2 million was significantly lower in Council District 5 compared to the around $12 million that was invested in streets across the remaining council districts. However, if you look at public parks under Council District 5, you'll see that $10 million was allocated to the Billwood Aquatic Center, and that's in comparison to the around $2 or $3 million that were invested in parks land across the council districts. However, when you look at the totals, 15.9 million, 16.7, 16.2, and across the board, you see that the total funding was equitably or roughly proportioned equally across all 5 council districts. So I just want to make sure that we all have a shared understanding of that fact as we move forward in the bond proposal. Next slide.
So the good news is you got a swimming pool, but nobody can get there because of the roads.
Or they're not as bad.
Hey, Yorktown is a new road.
Fair enough, sir. We do our best.
Can't beat it.
So it's important to note, not only to council, but to the general public, that the city has traditionally been able to pursue bonds with little impact to the effective tax rate. For bond 2024, we do not yet currently know the size of that particular bond, but I do want to let council know that our financial advisors are coming on the 27th and March 19th to both have a discussion regarding bond capacity, or debt capacity, and our debt management plan. And from there, the financial advisor will basically give us a financial range for bond 2024. So those numbers will be forthcoming after speaking with the financial advisor.
Yeah, can I just add to that, Neiman? So we're not recommending any property tax rate increase for this bond program, so it'll be within our tax rate. And then the debt management briefing, as Neiman said, will be two. One, our financial advisor will go over our overall debt management, all the debt that we have and the management of it. Councilman Hunter asked me for this earlier today, and I think several council members are interested in it. So we'll show you, and we'll have materials to show you all our outstanding debt, when that debt matures, what the kind of the pay down is of it, and talk about future bond programs. That's all in the debt management plan. We'll talk about some of the guiding factors that helps to predict what we can issue for a bond program. So there's going to be two briefings, one just on the overall existing debt and how we're managing it, and then a second briefing on what the recommendation is from us and with the guidance of the financial advisor on what the size of the next couple bond programs could be. We'll also have conversations on percentages for certificates of obligation, what that goal could kind of look like. So those are two big meetings coming up, briefings with the council, with staff, and our financial advisor.
Did you
Victor.
say that was when, roughly?
The first one will be on the 27th of February, and then the second one will be the first meeting in March.
Right.
So I think the 20th is at the 19th, March 19th.
Just as a reminder, we changed the budget policy to reflect trying to do more design and then construction in the later bond, so we don't have the cost differentials and having to supplement it with certificates of obligation. That way we have a good cost based on a real design as opposed to a projection. That way you get the cost, you get an accurate cost based on the design, and then you can go immediately into construction within 6 months of the bond.
Right.
Voting for the bond. So that I want to say that was something we changed in the last bond policies, or the budget policies.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you, sir. Next slide. So before you is the way ahead for bond 2024. As we speak, the executive staff has been meeting with various departments across the city, ascertaining their ideas for projects to be added to proposal. But a very key date on here is March 15th, because that's when we'll begin our one-on-one discussions with our policymakers, basically ascertaining you all's priorities and making sure those priorities are reflected in the bond proposal. Upon gaining you all's priorities, we do intend to conduct town halls in each council district so we can educate the public, but more importantly, we can ensure that we get public feedback on that bond proposal. Upon obtaining that public feedback, that of the council and our departments, we will be finalizing the proposed draft, and we'll be coming back to council in July to present that proposal. At that event, we'll present the proposal, and then we'll be asking council to approve adding the bond as a referendum to the ballot. Next slide.
Councilman Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've been emphasizing basketball courts for the last 5 years. How many have we installed?
That I can get an answer to, sir. I know that we have had a lot of park improvement projects in different parks across the city.
Not too many. I can tell you that's the answer.
And I asked Parks and Rec which of those improvements, which of those included basketball improvements.
And you already have it highlighted on an area where basketball courts could be included. And I think the last time we actually built a basketball court here was about $250,000, and that included the top.
Right.
So it's probably a lot higher than that, but
Definitely, right, sir.
a lot of these kids the whole reason I can't play in the morning at the downtown court is because everyone in the city has to get down here either by bus or car or by parent, and it takes 2 hours just to play. And because all the other courts are closed down, because we have such great development in the community. But we've torn so many down, we need new basketball courts. Y'all don't have to put the one back up near my house, but the rest of the community needs them because they complain to me all the time. And another thing that's really bad, and I wish Coach Dodd was here, is the backstops throughout the community. We promised the community a while back that we would be replacing these. I think it was before you were mayor. And basically, you have to have a tetanus shot every time that we leave those areas. So it's very bad, and we need to fix them.
Check, sir. We'll talk with the Parks and Rec
Talked
Department.
about, was that one on Nile?
Yeah, it was the one on Nile where everyone grew up playing baseball. There was a basketball court right behind it, but it's all right. It's already
You're gonna
bought.
Bring it up on your bond.
Yep.
Who's next? Councilwoman?
Well, I totally agree with Councilman Hunter about the basketball. We do need more basketball courts. But I also have my pet project, or I guess hopefully the citizens in District 2, which is sidewalks. And I know that we've had conversation with our city manager. Where are we on that? Or is there, I mean, I hope that is something that we are working on. I have been trying to get addresses and streets. Do we have at least, we are working on a sidewalk project, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Connectivity has been a recurring theme amongst many of the council members that we've spoken with, to include sidewalks. That is on the Public Works radar, and as we speak, they have been doing site surveys, going on site, identifying potential projects that can be added to the bond proposal, and we'll get that spreadsheet. And what we want to do is ensure that there's no ambiguity on the referendum. If we ask our voters for money for sidewalks, we're going to identify those exact locations where those sidewalks are going to be laid. So that work is currently being performed by the Public Works Department as we speak.
Well, and on that, I mean, I've got I guess we're working together on the same spreadsheet. I started with 15 and I'm up to like 72 locations. So I haven't seen y'all add any, but I'm curious to find out, because we only have until the 15th, I guess, right?
Yeah, Councilwoman, not to interrupt, but you and I talked, so the plan is Public Works needs to ride around with you. You and I had talked about your desire for about $1 million scope of work. We're going to identify specifically what sidewalks can fit in that $1 million, so there's no uncertainty. So that's coming up. Neiman's been busy trying to get this ready, but Public Works needs to ride with you and pick the most important ones that you think and your community thinks, your constituents, and then we'll package that up, specifically having limits from here to here, there to there, and so on.
Well, on that point, because I did speak to Ernie, and I was asking him, I said, does this work better? I mean, I know my district, so I'm going around,
right.
And he knows, of course, has his team. He says, no, go ahead and do, what you're doing. We'll do what we're doing. I mean, we can write together, of course.
Need to write together, because you're getting input from the citizens. Ernie may be as well, but I would submit that you're probably getting it more directly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two groups, Public Works and you, will decide together.
Okay.
Yes, but we need to ride along with you to help guide, because it may be, we'll say, sidewalks on one side of the road, not on the other. The dimensions, is some replaceable or not, that type of thing.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that meeting with.
It's a good idea. Many cities do it. It'll be a sidewalk program in City Council
And I was
District 2.
I'm gonna jump in because every South Side, every district
If council members want to,
sidewalks.
when we meet with council members, if that's a high priority,
Right,
then
bring it up in
we
your.
get it packaged up.
Yeah, but my guess would be that's a program that needs to be established, not necessarily.
I'm meeting with, not to interrupt, but Councilman Hernandez, who I met with, he doesn't have a sidewalk list per se. We got some
I'll
major
get your
streets.
sidewalk list.
No,
in
it
his
was-
district.
Yeah.
There is a sidewalk, but it's more of a trail along.
Yeah,
along
right.
No, it's not just that though.
When I say a trail, there's a lot of empty areas along a ditch.
A hike and bike
that's
trail.
behind the hike and bike trail
Yeah.
that would be considered. But with the sidewalk issue, according to our UDC, the
Oh, right.
responsibility for those
Yes.
sidewalks is the property owner.
Right, so it starts with the ordinance.
So
Right, or
I
it
think
could be
if you're going to do this, you need to
apps
have
as
some
well.
modifications to that, so we're not kind of contradicting ourselves.
Right.
Of
in-
course.
In that aspect.
Or there could be gaps, like Councilwoman and I have looked at several streets that have gaps, there's no sidewalk.
Right. Go ahead.
You know, I've been advocating for sidewalks now, the last term and this term, because if you take a look over by the old country club area, right off 37.
Yeah.
I get phone calls every month where they're saying, when you can put a sidewalk in.
Right.
And I think if we're going to look at sidewalks, we need to look at it systematically
Yeah.
across all districts.
That we do.
That's fine. That's what we're going to work with you all. No problem. Nobody's saying not to do that. Just Councilwoman has identified it as like a lead project, similar to the Bill Witt swimming pool. And so she,
No sidewalks in Annabelle and Carlisle.
That's right. I mean, yeah.
It gets worse. Okay, well, I think
No
April
problem.
15th, is that when we start? I'm
March
sorry.
15th.
yeah.
That's when
March
you start.
15th.